Today I'm really thrilled to be getting into the subject of dyslexia, a superpower that I definitely think has graced myself, but also graced other people, so many other people that I know. We're going to be talking to Kate and Kathy. Now, Kate and Kathy have created 2 books. One, The Illustrated Guide to Dyslexia and It's Amazing People, what a title. And the other, The Bigger Picture book of Amazing Dyslexics and the Jobs They Do, which I feature in. And you might have seen in my stories the other day, I was flicking through it and this is amazing foreword from Paul Smith. And both of these ladies are in the creative industries, but they are both mums to dyslexic children, and they've obviously felt this need to create these books. So do let anyone know out there, whoever, if you know someone who's dyslexic, or if you have children who are dyslexic, or you're dyslexic, I can't wait to get into this conversation.
Hi, I'm Kathy Forsyth.
And I'm Kate Power.
And today we're going to be having a lovely chit chat to Holly Tucker about all the wonderful things about dyslexia.
And talking about our 2 books, The Illustrated Guide to Dyslexia and Its Amazing People,
and The Bigger Picture book of Amazing Dyslexics and the Jobs They Do.
It's so lovely to see you both, and I know that this community is full of so many people who suffer from dyslexia and so many people have children. Why did you think it was important that we needed these books? Because, you know, I adore them, but I'd love to hear from you both about them.
Well, okay, so we met and used to enjoy coffee and kava together, and then so we went through the same situation. We both had jobs in the sort of creative industries, had kind of had our own journey to get to where we were, and then dyslexia only became an issue again when our children went to school. So we would talk about it, and then, you know, they were assessed for as being dyslexic, and so we, you know, you buy all these books, and the books are really heavy and texty and a bit depressing and a bit scary. So you think, what does this word dyslexia mean? You read the books and you're thinking, oh, I'm just reading about myself and half the people I know. This isn't so bad.
Yeah.
So then you just have to, you know, with my daughter trying to read the word the, you know, in every sentence she couldn't get it. But yet if I asked her to draw a picture of her friend she saw earlier, she would do it in such incredible detail that we then just thought there's something not right here. How can she remember what the button looked like and the bow and but couldn't recognize the word the? So Kathy and I just said, oh, you know, we need there's a gap in the market. We need to do a book that is an illustrated guide, because there's so many different things that you can have, you know, like timekeeping, not knowing your left from your right, not remembering rapid word recall, as I'm illustrating well now. And I think we just wanted it to be a funny, my son used to say about his calf, he was saying, oh, you know, what do you call that thing? You know, your knee cheeks. You know, there's a lot of humour. And so we wanted sort of just beautiful pictures and a beautiful book that shined the positive side. Having read the Dyslexic Advantage, we could see how exciting it was. The lots are very good at this material reasoning, which is sort of seeing in 3D, interconnecting things, seeing patterns in the bigger picture, and narrative. Lots of authors and storytellers, and they can remember things and experiences in great detail, which is very useful for writing and things. And then there's the dynamic reasoning, which was all about kind of knowing the answer, but not knowing how you know it, and sort of having to work out how you got there. So there was that, and then we just wanted to show some good examples of those sorts of careers, which I think there's about 18 in the first book. And then
show us your first book, is it? Yes, here, which is more illustrated, isn't it? And it's
we just wanted to take out the words.
Yeah, brilliant.
Example of how a non-dyslexic thinks and how a dyslexic thinks. But then it was things like, most non-dyslexics need to see a word 6 times before they recognise it, whereas there's a lot more for a dyslexic.
It's just brilliant. And the second book then.
Yeah, and that was like, so for some dyslexics, words disappear.
Yeah.
You know, and then we just got so excited. We met this wonderful group of people, and then we just kept hearing about more and more. And we just thought, well, let's, you know, as the kids have grown up, they then needed an idea of what sort of job to go for. So we just wanted to show them some really positive examples of amazing dyslexics that were thriving in their industries, very achievable careers, as well as famous ones like Paul Smith and Eddie Izzard and Jamie Oliver.
So you know what? So this is what's incredible is, as you said, at the time there was no books or anything else that really was about getting into dyslexia, but not in that sort of left side of the brain, the grey way, etc. And from your own experience, you go show your book again. This is the first book, isn't it?
This is the in the book that just explains the way dyslexics think. So scientists can see from brain scans that there's a different pattern. And so this was an illustration of a non-dyslexics, the way they think. And this is how dyslexic think, which is why they can sometimes come from things with a different perspective and outcome.
But often it takes a little bit longer. And that is why a dyslexic brain tends to fail in the classroom when you've got like 40 minutes lesson, the teacher delivers a question, and you know that dyslexic in that class is going to come up with something magical, but there just isn't the time. It'll come up in maths, you know, an hour later they'll go, damn, I had that amazing.
I know what to do.
But now you're in maths and now you've got to think fast in your maths lesson. It's just school is just not set up for a dyslexic brain, where it takes a bit longer, but you will come up with more creative solutions, as we know.
Tell me, do you think that it's so? When I was younger, you know, definitely it was me and one other person who was dyslexic, and I didn't get diagnosed until later on. Then if I move forward to my son, who's 15 going on 16, the majority of his peers are dyslexic. So is this because we are just better at testing, or do you think things have got worse, or what is it that now I feel that we are now dealing with? Well, I'm going to talk about my podcast and how crazily there's so many dyslexics who are founders, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But what do you think? Do you think that things have changed in terms of diagnosis and we're just so much more aware of it?
I think we just want to talk about it more, because the perception is changing. It's still, you know, it's still very young. We've still got quite a long way to go, but because it is out there, people are open to discuss it a bit more, because I think, you know, in the 60s, 70s, it was seen as being, you know, not very bright. But now we know it is bright. We kind of want to go, oh, I'm dyslexic, you know, and it is changing, and we are, you know, I think just people are more open to talking about it. And I
think the schools have definitely got better at picking it up. And I think the other thing is that dyslexia is so individual. It's not my dyslexia is not the same as your dyslexia.
Exactly.
It's not the same as Kathy's dyslexia. My son's dyslexia is very different from my daughter's dyslexia. And they, you know, 1 in 10 people in this country are dyslexic. But they're also, you know, I think dyslexia is just a different way of thinking. And there's a girl in the second book who we adore called Helen Taylor, who's an academic at Cambridge. And she's come up with the most wonderful theory that is called the evolution of complementary cognition. And it's all about the fact that we're all individuals, people think in a different way. You need the explorers, who are the dyslexics, who are the big thinkers, the ones who are kind of really out there. And then you want the everybody else who has their sort of specifics in maybe fine detail. And so, but society needs everybody. And the great thing about nowadays is you've got sort of technology that can help us. You don't need to know, you don't need to memorize in the same way as you used to, like the technology. I mean, what would you all do without our phones and our computers?
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I think, we just have to celebrate the good bits. I think the problem is the education system making you feel like you're a failure. You're not a failure if you can't draw. You're not called disabled if you can't draw or ride a bike.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a different way of processing information.
And what bring it back to Helen's theory, as I know, and maybe Holly, as you know, collaboration is the best dyslexic friend you can have. It's like, you know, you got a dyslexic and their brain works in an incredibly creative, fast way, but maybe you need someone that's a bit more organized or can write emails, you know, in 30 seconds. Whereas when I'm writing an email, you know, it takes me a good 10 minutes crafting it and making it sound great, where Kate can write an email in, 30 seconds. And I just think, wow, I don't have that, you know, but we collaborate, we work really well together.
Yeah.
And if I plot through my life, I've worked really well because I've always collaborated with people that are good at things that I am not good at.
Yeah, and I would say the same. You know, the fact is that it's the yin to the yang, isn't it? It's understanding that from a young age. A lot of my time I spend talking to my right-hand woman or those close to me at work, and I say, right, now you need to get that injection, inject it in and suck out everything that's in me because I'm going to blow up. Yeah. And that's basically when I'm unable to articulate or get out what I need to say, and I need that other side to my brain to sit with me and just work with me. And because I'm 43 now, I've understood this, but I didn't understand that 20 years ago. And so it's really, isn't it, helping kids with these tools and helping even adults who are still unaware of potentially those workarounds. Yes. When they get frustrated. I've got a few comments, I've got tons of comments coming in, so I'm going to read them out to you. Early's Cookies. Normalized dyslexia with a coffee table book is brilliant. Red Cherry Lips, just received the book on Monday. It looks ace. Lisa Cherry Lips, love your illustrated guide too. Have recommended so much. It's such a fantastic way to explain it to children. We even bought a copy for the school. I mean, I love that.
Yeah, thank you.
Mummy Mousy, I'm happily married to a dyslexic engineer, amazing with design and numbers. We have Sarmilla London. I was told I would never get a degree and never be able to go to uni, but I ended up getting 2 degrees.
Yay!
Yes. Yeah, very common.
Shaped by dyslexia. Dyslexics are good entrepreneurs. That's because of good communication skills and delegation skills. And I'd love to just take on from that comment, actually, from Shaped by Dyslexia. You know, when I was storing your book, which I'm so honoured to be part of, the other day, it was just amazing. And it just spoke to me. But what also I found incredible is when I think about my podcast, Conversations of Inspiration, and I sit down with that entrepreneur, and all, you know, so 1 out of every 2 will say, but of course I'm dyslexic.
Yeah.
And this is just this incredible thing, which is that we obviously have trained our brains to here we've got matching books here. We've obviously trained our brains in a way to, I always talk about it like an athlete. You know, we have crafted that brain year after year, that when something comes to us, we've worked out that we have to turn right, left, straight on, right, left, where other people just walk through the door. And our brains are already at 1,000,000 miles an hour potentially when other brains aren't. And that must have worked up some muscles in terms of communication, like someone's commenting, in terms of creativity, in terms of delegation, in terms of maybe understanding our weaknesses. So we're able to build things because we're not too proud, so we can say we're weak here, so we're going to get someone strong in another place. What have you found through the research in this book that you found other people, what have you said has been their sort of superpowers? I call it a superpower, but what have other people called it?
Gil Gashoni, who is based in San Francisco, he's a wonderful creative branding genius. I mean, he calls it a hyperability. I mean, his interview in the book's just gorgeous. He sort of talks about growing up on the streets, you know, and just the struggles at school, and when he was kind of they were going around the class to see when it was everyone's turn to read, he'd worked out exactly when he needed to put his hand up to say, I need to go to the toilet, go to the loo, and then he knew how long he had to be before it had kind of passed his turn, you know, his turn in the class to kind of read, you know. And I mean, and he just speaks so beautifully about dyslexia, and you know, really feels it's a hyperability. As many of them do, you know. I think everyone, you know, and especially when you have to work very hard to keep up at school, you're actually used to working 5 times harder, and then find a career that you love, and surround yourself with people that you love, you're gonna fly.
I mean, we've got people in the book who's, I think superpowers can translate to coping mechanisms as well. So we've got this really cool dude called Lloyd Everett, who's an actor, and he played in Othello. He was the youngest actor to play Shakespeare at the Globe Theatre, and he illustrates his scripts.
Sorry, there's a...
You know, he struggled to learn his lines, but his coping mechanism was to, you know, draw little illustrations, and it's helped him. And now, you know, he's been, you know, on TV. He's recently appeared in The Deceased on Channel 5. Not The Deceased, The Deceived. Dyslexia. It was a D word.
This is my whole life I just spend saying to them, well, it began with C. It began with G.
I know.
I mean, you know, what more do you want?
Well, don't you call them Hollyisms?
I do. I call them Hollyisms, and now they're known. You know, now I'm less afraid of them. You know, whereas, you know, it was only when, you know, about 17 years ago when I met my now husband, but he basically was like, "What did you just say?" And I would say it again because I've been saying it for 20 years, and he'd say, "That's the wrong way to say it." And now we call them Hollyisms. And actually, bizarrely, and you would think after 20 years, I've gone through them all. But only last week, there was another Hollyism. I can't even remember what it was, where I go, "You've got to be kidding me." Because I've said that on stage. And he's like, "Oh, my goodness, you know, that is not how you say it." And I think it's, you know, making friends with that feeling, isn't it? It's rather than now, I don't think I'm stupid, and I'm not ashamed, because actually I'm surrounded by people that love me, who've allowed me to be silly like that, or feel silly for that moment. But now it's called a Hollyism. It's okay. And I think that's something important that we should all do, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think you're absolutely right. We have to learn to embrace it. As lovely Pip Jameson, I think you know her.
Yes.
After every email she writes, she signs off with "be dyslexic," and I'm thinking that's such a positive thing. And reading one of her emails, you go, I want to sign my emails off like that.
And actually that's why we wrote the book as well. It's just to kind of try and give examples. We wrote it for our children. So the first book was when they were younger, and we were trying to explain to them what dyslexia was. And then this one is they're at secondary school now, and so it's like what job could they do? And so it was like, these are positive examples of people that have been in your boat, and they have found jobs that they love and are doing incredibly well at, and you know, successfully living happy lives, doing things they love.
Yeah. I mean, it was amazing when we went around interviewing people, and everyone was so open and honest. They really opened up their hearts. Not only did we go to incredible places like the House of Commons and the Royal Ballet behind the scenes, it was people...
An operating theatre.
Operating theatre. We watched a lovely James Kinross who let us in, and it was amazing. It was amazing how kind of physical they are. But and even in the James in the book, he's the only one that's got 6 pages, because what you read about what James puts down is poetry, and it's amazing. It's beautiful. You know, he's a surgeon. He's got dyslexia, but he's top of his field. He speaks with such clarity and emotion.
Oh my goodness! I'm just looking at some of the comments. You know, so many people are just saying, you know, that they have their own way of speaking. I love this, that we're all bonding over these things, that we all have made up words. You know, that's what my Hollyisms are, made up words, basically. And actually a lot of my words should be in the dictionary rather than the word itself.
They probably make more sense.
They do completely. I mean, you know, let me out a Hollyism. What about a damp squid? Now think about this.
No.
Yeah, a damp squid hanging there. That is a squid that's damp. You wouldn't want that on you, would you? No. And I only found it out last month. It's a damp squid. I was like, what the hell is that?
Yes.
You know, because my visual brain has gone, damp squid. Okay, that's what you say. That's what you say in front of 500 people listening to you when you're on stage. That's what you do.
And then you wonder why they're laughing.
Yeah. And you wonder, and you're going, because I'm hilarious.
I'm knowing this.
Yeah, you know, it's like all these things. My words 100% make more sense. And I'm sure that a lot of people, I've got so many more comments here. My mum, she says you need to be proud of who you are. And definitely, you know, I am now. And I'm sure lots of people in your book, as you said, they were happy to open up to you because they've been able to deal with it and get to that place where they're happier. Sarah Wilderness PR, my daughter's dyslexic and this book looks amazing. I'm purchasing it now. That's fantastic. Mandy Shaker, thanks to you, I can now understand how to deal with my son's problems simply. This is just brilliant to hear. North Devon mum of 4, dyslexia runs in my family. 2 of my boys have the superpower. It is difficult for them to realize this at some moments. Sometimes life is just tough for them. This new book is fab. I couldn't agree more. Handy spelling. I think dyslexic adults often realize it's a gift, but children don't believe us when we say one day you'll be pleased. That's why this book is so important. The role models are fantastic. And Linda Sunday Best, my husband is dyslexic, and for his 65th birthday, I bought him a badge to wear with pride. Dyslexia is my superpower. I bought it at Holly & Co. Thank you, Emma Giaclone. Cologne. I just absolutely, it's isn't it wonderful? And I think this is another thing. What advice would you give? So number 1, to buy your book, both books, for different stages of our kids. But what have you found that parents can benefit from? Any tips in when talking about dyslexia? As I said, sometimes, you know, when they're having trouble in the classroom, this isn't like, they don't feel it's a superpower right then. You know, it's actually bloody tough work.
I think, you have to really fight for your children at school. You have to get them the help, and early identification is key. You know, the sooner you find out, if you know, there are lots of markers that that can point you in the right direction. You know, even things like not crawling. Lots of dyslexics don't crawl; they go straight from bum shuffling to walking. And then, so if you need to get the help, and then you know, our kids have both been through this sort of state system. The help is there, but sometimes not enough. So I mean, if you can get extra support, I mean, that makes a big difference.
And also, but to try and encourage what they're good at. You know, identify what your kid's good at. If he's good at sports, she's good at sports, or good at making stuff with clay or pottery or drawing or performing. You know, put your energies into that as well. You know, you need your English, fair dues. Maths, it's not a big thing for me. I don't think it's going to hinder my children in the direction they're going. But, you know, I'd say if you try and concentrate on the English and then encourage them or just, you know,
because there's
identify what they're good at and then encourage that equally as all the academic subjects.
Because also there's things like, you know, we always say it's a shame that they don't do GCSEs in things like empathy or being a good listener. You know, there's things that are such key skills that you need in the workplace, but they're not, you know, and they are the things that lots of dyslexics are very good at. And there's no recognition, you know, just because you're being really kind to someone who'd hurt themselves in the playground, you don't get a gold star to go on your chart to say, you know, whereas if you got all your spellings right, you might.
And
when
when
you need to, you know, everyone's different. They just need to broaden the scope so that no child feels like they're failing.
And when you think about the future, you know, let's think about this. You know, we have got a future that is going to be involving technology. It's going to give us so many things that we used to have to learn and that we will not have to necessarily learn it. But we are going to be surrounded by automation, by algorithms, by these things. And for me, what I keep talking to people about is that this is the era to be human. This is the era where humanisms and us as humans and our faults should be celebrated. And actually, this is exactly what you're saying, and why the education system is something I'm fascinated by, daunted by, but fascinated by, as to how we can get those entrepreneurial skills, such as, by the way, empathy, such as understanding customers, or understanding psychology, or understanding you know, we've got obesity as a massive issue and diabetes is a huge issue, and yet we don't have home economics back on our curriculum. You know, all of these sorts of things. There is such a wake-up call that needs to be shoved into our education system, and yet it feels so daunting to even talk about it. It's one of those things, isn't it? A little bit like the environment. You know, you can just sort of say, well, I was just reading an article where people are sort of slightly giving up, saying, well, it's done. The point is, it's not done. And us as parents have to, you know, my mum's always said, you know, find your peacock feather, find the thing that they're good at and hold that up like a shiny sort of beacon for them at home. You know, everyone's got a peacock feather. What is it for your child? You know, and in the time that us parents try and deal with the education system, we've got to find our kids' peacock feathers. If they're not good at this, that's great, but what are they good at? And it's when you find it, you can absolutely lift their spirits, which then helps them potentially deal with difficulties such as dyslexia in the work at school. Would you agree?
Yeah, totally. And I think it's about understanding how your dyslexia affects you. If you know why and what your issues are, then you can find the coping strategies, or even just to be able to explain to your teacher, you know, that you're not ignoring them, you're not acting out, you're not, you know, and just so that everybody knows where they are.
Giving them their script, isn't it? So it could be that one of the things as us parents listening now could help our children is, and help ourselves, is straight away learn our script. You know, I'm really good at this, miss, but I just want to let you know I'm not so great at that and that. But if you want to get the best out of me, if you just showed me a picture, or if you just did this, it would make more sense for me. And it's almost empowering them with their own script, isn't it? And helping them be confident with with the sort of instruction manual to them.
Because as we know, a lot of dyslexics are visual learners.
Yes.
They need visual keys, you know, or diagrams just to hook them in. Once you've got them hooked in, I think the journey is a little bit easier. And then we also have to remember, there are how many subjects at school that you study? 10, 12?
Yeah.
And then you leave, and then there's thousands of job descriptions you can do.
Absolutely.
That's what you have to remember.
We've got lots of more comments coming in. Shaped by dyslexia, a damp squib. Well, I'm on your page. Here we go. Linda's Sunday best. Here. Empathy and kindness are worth more than any academic qualification. Shaped by dyslexia. I really struggle to understand the spectrum of dyslexia. I know how dyslexic I am, but sometimes it's hard to relate to others. This is a problem in explaining dyslexia to non-dyslexics. I couldn't agree more, right? Early's Cookies, the Peacock Feather Club. That's what we are.
Yeah, I love it.
It's just amazing. And Kathy, do you think, because you then struggled as well, and your struggles, do you think like so many people may be listening now, like even as you're speaking, I'm realizing some of the things that I'm doing that, you know, that you don't quite realize that that's part of your dyslexia. You know, that's your own dyslexia makeup. And it is difficult, isn't it? So do you think that it's something that's important is to be super self-aware and understand your own makeup of your own dyslexia so you can get your script ready?
Yeah, I think it is important, especially now that kids get assessed early, because growing up, I just didn't feel good enough. I struggled to keep up with my peers in class. I was always taken out and going to special lessons. But what has been beneficial for me then, that when we were doing all these exercises, my coping mechanism started then when I tried to approach my work in a different way. Instead of, concentrating on words and the content and making my spelling and my grammar correct, I would be looking at this piece of paper going, how am I going to make this beautiful? I was quite good at drawing. I had a nice visual spatial balance.
Yeah.
And, I was creating nice, beautiful things, but they weren't really appreciated then, but they made me feel good. And I think probably as I got into secondary school, that skill developed. I found myself in my art class doing really well. And I think obviously that catapulted me into a design career, because I identified what I was good at, and ultimately I loved doing it. And then I went to university, I did a graphic design course, and my first job was working for Sebastian Conrad. And then, and that was an amazing experience. He's a great man to work with. And then the more I got to know him and the more he got to know me, we both found out that we were dyslexic, and he's in the book. And in the design industry, one of his quotes says that it's a stigma if you're not dyslexic and you work within the design creative environment, which is fantastic. And how wonderful is that? Affirmation for all those creatives out there. And I think actually for the creative, it's not like maths where you have an equation and you have an end, there's an ending. Being a creative, you can push it forwards and on, and you can go on for days, just because I think you're battling with yourself, especially if you are dyslexic and not knowing whether you were good enough. You're continually pushing those barriers of creativity, and I'm so glad I've ended up in the career I'm in. I love my career. And
there's so many positive comments coming in. I just don't maybe think that we talk about enough about this subject as adults as well. I just think that, I as we've just been speaking, I think about things that have troubled me in my past. I don't hear things well. I think it's because I'm already panicked to getting it wrong that I can't hear anything properly. Yeah. So for instance, if someone is to read out a number or tell me something, it panics the life out of me. I cannot have it. Hence actually now why I'm phobic on the phone. So now I'm not good on the phone. I do not like people calling me up, because I think I've had an issue with the association of hearing things and not being able to recall them, or someone can't say it slowly enough for me to grasp it. And then when I read words, I miss words, hence all my Hollyisms, because you're telling me now I've got to see something 7 times. Well, if you're in a hurry and if you're trying to keep up with class and if you're trying to do these things, the word goes in incorrectly, and then you hold on to it for dear life thinking, well, I know that. And then you start saying damp squid for the rest of your life. And, you know, and so, you know, there's so many things that you realize as you get older that, you know, there's a problem. Or I'll get tongue tied. I can't speak. I can't get what's going on in my mind out of my mouth, which some would find hard to believe, but I really can't. And I get very nervous about speaking, which is just, it can get to me. I've got a few more comments, actually. Handy spelling. The handle, handy spelling. Making learning fun is important for all kids, but perhaps even more so for these visual learners. This book is visually beautiful for all of us. I mean, you've got such fans here. Maddie Shaker, I hope that you can translate your book in Arabic, because we've got a lot of dyslexia in the Middle East and many parents don't know how to deal with this situation. That's really fascinating, isn't it? Yeah. North Devon mum of 4. Myself and my sons have agreed we will read about one of the people in your book together each evening to keep the positivity flowing.
I think that's what we just hope for, that, you know, when people hear the words dyslexia, they don't just think of a negative thing, but they think of, oh, they must be good at X, Y, and Z. I mean, that's what we all need to do by this, you know. And, you know, the British Dyslexia Association is, you know, very much promoting positive dyslexia and Dyslexia Creates. Because in the back of the book, we've got a section about from proper experts. I mean, we were a bit like, oh, she's called us experts, but actually we're a couple of mums that have lived it and talked to loads of people about it and read lots of books. But, you know, experts like John Stein from Oxford University, he says he wouldn't want to cure dyslexia because it comes with too many things. And then who else have we got? We've got the lovely Sally Ashcroft, who's a dyslexia tutor. She does this, you know, make it memorable. You know, lots of, we went and saw one of her lessons and she was taking the kids out and they were playing a game, you know, just, it's, you know, they were dressed up as in fancy dress to sort of remember some spellings. You've got people like Rossi Stone, who he was really dyslexic, really struggling at school, and so he's changed the curriculum into like cartoons, because when he then started to revise by doing drawings of what he had to learn, he got an A. So he's, you know, he's
amazing.
Yeah, it's cool.
Amazing. Before we go, I've just got to read this. We've got Lisa Cherry Lips. Our dyslexic son says toe thumb for his big toe and tsunami knife instead of Swiss Army knife. I just want a whole book of dyslexiisms, Hollyisms, you know, that.
Yeah, can I just say something? I'm one of your followers. I think it's Miss Meanie.
Yeah.
Wrote something really beautiful this morning. She said she was commenting about dyslexia, and when she reads the word impossible, she reads it as I am possible, and I thought that was so beautiful. I mean,
I think we've got your 3rd book coming out here, definitely. Do you know what I mean? Like, what would be behind the words? I just love that. You could collect everyone's dyslexiisms and we could have the most fun. I have loved speaking to you. I think this is so, we need to, tell everyone though, before you go, how they can buy your books. So where can they go to buy your books?
You can buy them in your local independent store, which is obviously the preferred shop local, support your community. Waterstone sell it. The Amazon, I think, sell it, or they do sell it. I think they might have sold out, but they are getting more. They're getting more in.
Oh, amazing. So we've got all our independent stores have got it. We've got Waterstones. We know the A Word has it. Amazon has it. And unfortunately for any author.
And Holly & Co stock it, I believe.
And we do. We stock it.
Most importantly, yes.
Exactly.
But maybe you need to get this one too.
Don't you worry, we're on it. We're on it. Thank you so much, you two. I'm going to now summarize you and make you blush, but I've just had such a lovely time. And honestly, I've just learned something about myself, that I've got to get my own dyslexiisms down on a piece of paper so that I can sort of hand it to someone and say, listen, when you hear a strange word, just smile. Just smile. And,
and keep asking your guests if they're dyslexia.
Yes, absolutely.
Because, the more that belong to the tribe, the better.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's a club worth joining.
Yeah. One other thing. Can we just? I just want to put this out there. We're getting a lot of DMs from teenagers that have got the book, and they've got big smiles and they're thanking us. And I can't tell you how heartwarming it is to get you from a teenager.
Yeah.
It's not. We get lots of thanks from parents, but hitting a teenager, and that was our mission.
They're a hard nut to crack, so you've done well there, hey?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. This is a brilliant book for that age range and above, isn't it? You've catered fantastically. Thank you both so much. Well done. And we sorted out our sound, and we're all experts now. And I'm now going to summarize you, but for now, thank you and bless you.
Oh, thank you, Holly.
Bye.
Take care. Bye. Bye. Oh, well, aren't they brilliant? They've given me confidence and my damp squids. The Dyslexic Advantage, you know, some people in their book have talked about basically if you're in the creative industry and you're not dyslexic, you're not part of the club, which is absolutely beyond, isn't it, when you think about how we might have been brought up. Dyslexic brains naturally are trained in the mindset of being basically perfect entrepreneurs, because they're always having to think in advance of everyone else about the hurdle in advance and how they're going to overcome it. They can't give up, can they, in the classroom? They've got to put those building blocks, and that might be why entrepreneurs are more likely to be dyslexic. Thinking creatively, recognizing their own weaknesses, having the yin to the yang, teaming up with people who are great at one thing and teaming up with maybe where your weaknesses are. Dyslexics work 5 times as hard, you know, and think about that. That is unbelievable. So you've actually got people who are training themselves to work hard, and that goes into other areas of their life. Are they more emotionally intelligent? Potentially, yes. Another thing I've learned out of that is about supporting our children. We just came up with that sort of phase of having their sort of menu of their dyslexia. What is your dyslexic tendencies, and knowing what your script is. Help your kids know what their script is, because as these lovely ladies have said, you know, it's actually into your individual dyslexia. No dyslexia is exactly the same. So if we can help our children have their dyslexia down, introduce themselves, and then maybe just possibly say, you know, the way my dyslexia works with me is X, Y, and Z. And I think that's a really empowering thing for us to do. There should be a GCSE, we know this, right? In empathy, in kindness. How are we going to change this curriculum, guys? The more I hear about it, the more I just get so frustrated. You know, someone needs to start up a company or petition or something. You know, I'm going to do my work on this, and that will be around the entrepreneurial space. But gosh, don't us parents need to club together to understand how this curriculum is not being shaped for our children in the future. And thirdly, as an adult, collaboration, and as children, but as adults, we need to remember collaboration is 100% our best friend. It's the best friend. As Kate and Kathy have said, you know, collaboration is our best friend, and I really believe that, and we must collaborate more. Be proud of your isms, be proud of your weaknesses, and make sure you can find the people to support you. And don't you agree, I think their third book should be on the isms. It should be on all of our amazing thumb toes and tsunami knives and damp squids. And I mean, I could go on, but it gets very embarrassing if I carry on. And there's probably one a week. So I'd already be able to actually fill their book just with my Hollyisms. Anyway, thank you, Dell, for allowing me to talk to great individuals such as Kate and Kathy. You know, this is the sort of conversations we need to be having. Keep thinking about the curriculum, guys. Keep thinking about our kids and their superpowers. And that's it for me. I'm a married woman of nearly a week on Friday, and I'm feeling it. I feel like an old married wife. Anyway, so much joy to you all. Lots of love.